Imagine this. A man with a caved-in skull, one arm lost, deaf on one side, blind in one eye, and legs so battered he limped in pain for decades. Now picture trying to survive like that in a world where hearing was your only alarm and running your only chance to live. No way to fight. No way to flee. And still he endured. For years, we may never know his real name, but archaeologists have given him one, Shanidar I. And the wreckage of his bones reveals one of the most remarkable survival tales in all of human history. Tucked deep in the Zagros Mountains of northern Iraq is a quiet, time-worn cave. In 1957, American archaeologist Ralph Seletsky began digging into its ancient layers, not expecting much beyond typical Stone Age tools or animal remains. But what he uncovered would rewrite the story of our kind. Hidden in the earth were the remains of multiple Neanderthals, 11 in total. Most were incomplete, fragmentary, as if time itself had tried to erase them. But one stood out at once. The skeleton was labeled Shanidar I, and all evidence suggested this man had walked the earth over 40,000 years ago. What made him truly extraordinary wasn't just his age, though that was rare enough. He likely lived to be between 40 and 50 in an era when few reached adulthood. But it wasn't longevity alone that set him apart. It was his body battered, broken, and somehow still standing. His skeleton told a story of brutal injury and unimaginable endurance, wounds that should have ended him, disabilities that would have made him a burden. And yet, against all odds, those injuries had healed. Not quickly, not easily, but thoroughly enough that he went on living for years, which left archaeologists stunned. How does someone so gravely wounded manage to stay alive in a world with no safety net? Because Shanidar I wasn't simply surviving, he was being helped, cared for. Before we explore the brutal details, his missing arm, crushed skull, and ruined joints, we need to understand the unforgiving world he came from. A place of predators, hunger, bitter cold, and relentless physical trial. A world where survival meant strength, speed, and perfection. And still, somehow, he made it. Shanidar I didn't just suffer one injury, his body was a map of pain and perseverance. The damage began at his head. The entire left side of his skull had been smashed in. His eye socket collapsed, the bone twisted and regrew, showing a blow so severe it likely cost him sight in that eye and may have harmed the frontal lobe of his brain, possibly throwing off his sense of balance. Picture it. A shattered skull, one arm gone, deaf on one side, blind in one eye, and legs so badly injured he limped through life in constant pain. Now imagine surviving like that in a world where your only warning was sound and your only hope was to run. No way to fight. No way to flee. Yet somehow he did. For years, his name is lost to time, but archaeologists have given him one. Shanidar I. And the battered remains of his body reveal one of the most incredible survival stories ever uncovered. High in Iraq's Zagros Mountains lies a cave carved by millennia and silence. In 1957, American archaeologist Ralph Seletsky began an excavation there, expecting perhaps some Stone Age tools or animal bones. What he found changed everything we thought we knew about human history. Beneath layers of sediment were the remains of several Neanderthals, 11 in total. Most were fragmentary, as if time had half effaced their presence. But one skeleton was different. He was tagged Shanidar I. Based on the evidence, this man had lived over 40,000 years ago. Even more surprising, he had reached the age of 40 to 50, a rare feat in a time when most never made it out of adolescence. But his age wasn't the most astonishing thing. It was what his bones revealed, a life marked by pain, trauma, and resilience. Injuries that should have ended him, disabilities that should have made him useless to his group. And yet, he didn't just survive, he healed. Slowly, painfully, but well enough to go on living. A world of predators, hunger, cold, and constant physical demand. A place where only the strong were supposed to last. Yet somehow, he did. Shanidar I's body wasn't marked by one injury, it was a record of years of suffering, recovery, and survival. It began with his head. His eye socket was crushed, The bone had grown back misshapen, showing that the trauma didn't kill him. It likely left him blind in that eye and may have damaged the front of his brain, possibly affecting his balance, coordination, and even his behavior. Yet he lived on. Today, such a blow would require surgery, intensive care, and long rehabilitation. Shanidar 1 had none of that. No medicine, no doctor, just pain, time, and the people around him. Then there was his arm, gone below the elbow but not shattered or torn. The rounded bone ends show it healed over a long time. It happened early, possibly in childhood. Maybe it was crushed, maybe bitten. Some even believe it was amputated to save his life. Whatever caused it, the result was the same, a permanent disability. With one arm, he couldn't throw spears, carry heavy loads, or process food. He couldn't climb, couldn't defend himself. Even eating would have been difficult. And yet, the wound healed. He adjusted, or more likely, someone helped him adjust. But the damage didn't stop there. His right foot had been crushed, the bones never setting quite right. Over time, his left leg bowed from compensating. Arthritis plagued both. He walked with a painful limp. In a landscape where survival meant moving fast, he could barely walk. Predators didn't wait. Weather didn't pause. Herds didn't return. And still, Shanidar 1 remained with his group because someone slowed down for him. And as if all of that weren't enough, he was going deaf. Today, we call it surfer's ear. Back then, it would have muffled or blocked sound completely. In a world where hearing meant knowing danger was near, Shanidar 1 lived in near silence. He wouldn't have heard a predator's approach, or the call of his group, or even his own name. Blind in one eye, deaf in one ear, a shattered foot, a warped spine. Shanidar 1 was possibly the most physically limited person ever discovered from the prehistoric world. But he didn't die young. He wasn't abandoned. His injuries weren't the end of his life, they are what make it matter. A crushed skull, a missing limb, a broken leg, hearing loss, teeth worn down to stubs. Any of these injuries alone could have killed him. Together, they should have been impossible to survive. But Shanidar 1 did. Not just barely, he lived long enough for the bones to knit, for the wounds to mend, for time to pass. Long enough to grow old. Long enough to leave a story behind. That's not theory. It's evidence. Every healed break is proof that someone was there. Someone had to feed him when he couldn't move. Someone had to help him walk, help him survive. Someone had to choose to keep him around when leaving him behind would have been easier. And that help wasn't a one-time act. His wounds didn't all come at once. They happened across a lifetime, which means someone helped him not through a moment but through years, maybe decades. This may be the oldest known example of sustained, intentional caregiving in human history. Before cities, before writing, before farming, before civilization. Shanidar 1 shows us something deeper than instinct, something that looks like compassion. He wasn't useful as a hunter. He couldn't guard the group. He may have consumed more than he contributed, but still they kept him. They didn't just tolerate him. They made space for him. And that means this band of Neanderthals, so often shown as primitive or savage, may have understood something profound. That a life isn't valuable only for what it can produce. Sometimes it's valuable simply because it exists. For generations, Neanderthals were depicted as backward, unintelligent, doomed relics of evolution. Hunched, grunting, clubs dragging in the mud, but Shanidar 1 forces us to rethink all of that. His story isn't one of brute force. It's a story of kindness, of survival not through strength but through community, empathy, and care. He adjusted, or more likely, someone helped him adjust. But the damage didn't stop there. His right foot had been crushed, the bones never setting quite right. Over time, his left leg bowed from compensating. Arthritis plagued both. He walked with a painful limp. In a landscape where survival meant moving fast, he could barely walk. If Neanderthals could care for their most injured, protect their weakest, and provide for someone who gave nothing back, then they weren't some lesser form of us, they were us. His life points to memory, emotional bonds, shared responsibility. Someone remembered he couldn't keep pace. Someone planned around his injuries. Someone believed his life was still worth something. This story isn't just about bones, it's about minds. And Shanidar 1 isn't alone. Other remains at the site show signs of deliberate burial. Some were arranged in specific postures. One may have been laid to rest with flowers, perhaps as a sign of mourning or reverence. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes Neanderthals were not crude cavemen. They were human-shaped by different challenges, yes, but human in ways that matter. The biggest difference between us may not be intellect or culture, but that they're gone and we're still here. Shanidar 1 should not have lived. Not with one arm, not with one eye, not with a twisted leg, failing hearing, and ground down teeth. He couldn't run, couldn't hunt, couldn't flee. But he lived, because someone made the choice not to abandon him, because someone shared their food, because someone waited for him, because someone believed that broken didn't mean worthless. His story wasn't carved in words, it was written in bone, and those bones changed the way we see ourselves. We often speak with pride about modern medicine, hospitals, human rights, but the impulse to care, the urge to protect the vulnerable didn't begin with us. It began in caves around firelight, in the silence of ancient winters, where small bands of people gathered and made space for one more. Shanidar 1 wasn't just the most wounded Neanderthal ever found. He is the oldest known evidence that we once chose kindness over convenience, that we didn't just fight to survive, we fought for one another. That's what he left behind. Not just his pain, not just his scars, but the undeniable truth that someone saw him and stayed. And because they stayed, he lived. And because he lived, we remember.